So this is from Tim. Tim, thank you for sharing this. So this happened. The Supreme Court leaves in place a ruling barring the prosecution of homeless. I guess they felt the holiday spirit. And they're like, we're not going to prosecute the homeless. We're not going to help them, but we won't prosecute them. Happy holidays. All right, let's see what's going on here. U.S. cities have struggled over the years with how to address the issue of homelessness. I have an idea. How about we give people housing? How about that? How about we make housing a human right? Dare to dream, right? Dare to dream. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday refused to hear Boise's defense of its policy of sometimes prosecuting homeless people for sleeping in public after a lower court found ordinances in Idaho's capital violated the U.S. Constitution's bar on cruel and unusual punishment. The justices left in place a 2018 ruling by the San Francisco-based 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals that fining or jailing homeless people for staying outside or in unauthorized places if a bed at an emergency shelter is not available is unconstitutional. The city had appealed that ruling, arguing that decision threatened public health and safety. U.S. cities have struggled over the years with how to address the issue of homelessness, putting in place various local laws. The case centered on two Boise ordinances that prohibited camping or disorderly conduct by lodging or sleeping in public. The city said it needed to enforce ordinances to prevent the formation of encampments that can lead to unsanitary conditions and crimes such as drug dealing and gang activity, and to keep public spaces accessible for residents, visitors, and wildlife. 6 current or former homeless Boise residents who were prosecuted under the ordinances, Robert Martin, Robert Anderson, Lawrence Lee Smith, Basil Humphrey, Janet Bell, and Pamela Hawks, sued the city in federal court in 2009, arguing the laws violated their constitutional rights. All right, so the Ninth Circuit ruled that the Constitution's 8th Amendment, which bars cruel and unusual punishment, prohibits punishing homeless people if there are more of them than there are available shelter beds. The ruling allows the plaintiffs to seek an injunction against enforcement of the city's ordinances. So how about you build more shelter beds? How about you do that? How about you build more shelter beds? Instead of enforcing these laws, which, by the way, guess what? It costs money to enforce laws. That costs money. Taking people to jail, keeping them in jail, putting them in court, having people patrol the streets to arrest people, make sure no one's sleeping in a public space because they don't have a home. That all costs money and resources. So why don't you take those money and resources and instead build more beds, get more resources available for the homeless? Why don't you treat them like people who need help instead of criminals? It's not a crime to be homeless. It's a crime that we have homelessness in the richest country in the world. That's the difference. And you know me. I mean, I'm in principle, and I know we're talking about like utopia pretty much here, but the way I see it, if I was building a society from scratch, housing would be a human right. And you know the way we deal with homelessness, if anyone doesn't have housing, if there's any type of homelessness issue, everybody has to go outside and fix it. And no one gets to go back home until we fix it. That's what I would do in my Sims game. Like, someone does it, get out of your house. Get out. We're fixing this right now. But seriously, housing should be a human right. And you know me, I don't think there should be public property. Retract. I don't think there should be private property. I know that's not a change I will ever see in my lifetime. So it's not like that's something I'm working towards. I will never see that change in my lifetime. But I think if we were starting a society from scratch, there should be no private property. And by the way, just to prevent, when I say that, I don't mean this isn't my shirt. This is everybody's shirt. No, this is my shirt. When I say private property, I'm referring to housing and land. That should be owned and operated by the state, by an elected government that then oversees everybody having housing. That's the utopia I would like. That's the utopia I would like. And I know it sounds like a dream, and in many ways it is. And it's certainly, I'll never see that at least not in this country. Maybe in other countries there's a chance. like some of them could get to that point. Countries like Denmark, where there are more, there's laws that protect the citizens more against predatory renting practices and against, just predatory housing practices in general. Basically, our whole real estate market in other countries, stuff like that isn't legal. You can't do that, but at least not to the extent you can here. But yeah, I don't know. I have an idea. Idaho, why don't you build more resources instead of spending these resources to throw people in jail? Why don't you spend the resources to build more beds and to make more resources available for your homeless community? But that's just how we act in the United States. If somebody is homeless, they're a criminal. If somebody is addicted to drugs, they're a criminal. If somebody, we'd rather just throw people in jail. Why? Are we that hostile of a society? I don't think we are. I don't think humanity is that brutal. I think maybe the fact that we have a for-profit prison system that builds a demand for prisoners is part of the reason that stuff like that happens. I think maybe that's part of it. But let's end on a positive. It was nice that the Supreme Court, here, let's go back to the Supreme Court showed some holiday spirit. The Supreme Court, they were like, guys, the holidays are upon us. We're not going to prosecute we're not going to help you. You're still sleeping outside in the dead of winter. Come on, we're not miracle workers here, but we're not going to prosecute you. We're not going to throw you in jail. Isn't that nice? Come on. Can't say we never did anything for you, homeless. Supreme Court. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Tim. All of our holiday spirits are lifted. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to